Imagine standing at the edge of a vast, silent battlefield. No clashing swords, no battle cries, only a stillness that unsettles the soul. You expect movement, attack, pursuit, yet none comes. And in that eerie quiet, doubt creeps in. Is the enemy weak? Or is he waiting, calculating, drawing me in? This is the power of silence. It is not absence. It is presence disguised. It is not inaction. It is controlled restraint. When a man craves you yet does not move, do not be so quick to assume he is blind to his own desires. On the contrary, he may understand something most do not. That power lies not in immediate pursuit but in the tension created by restraint. In the wild, the most effective hunters do not charge at their prey in reckless desperation. They stalk, they study, they wait for the moment when the prey, unaware of its own vulnerability, steps closer on its own. This is not just about patience, it is about psychological dominance. A man who acts immediately, who confesses his longing without hesitation, gives away his advantage. He places all his cards on the table, exposing himself to rejection, to negotiation, to your control. But a man who remains silent forces you into the unknown. He creates a vacuum, and nature abhors a vacuum. The mind rushes to fill it, to make sense of the quiet, to question, to wonder. And the more you wonder, the more he occupies your thoughts. You see, desire does not grow in certainty, it thrives in mystery. The moment you are sure of someone, the tension evaporates, the chase ends, and the power shifts. But when a man who craves you refuses to reveal the depth of his hunger, he disrupts the expected pattern, he becomes unpredictable, and what is unpredictable is irresistible. Yet most misunderstand silence. They interpret it as disinterest, as weakness. They fail to see it for what it is, a tool, a tactic, a carefully placed move in the intricate game of attraction. The wise do not always rush toward what they want. They let what they want come to them. The question is not whether he desires you. The question is whether you will be drawn into his silence or master the game yourself. Picture a man standing at the edge of a fire. He feels the heat, he longs to reach out, but he knows if he gets too close too quickly, the flame will retreat, flicker, or even die out. So instead, he steps back, he watches. He lets the fire burn on its own, knowing that if he withholds his presence just enough, the flame might stretch toward him instead. This is the power of withholding. It is an art form, a dance of restraint, a game where the one who resists the urge to act often gains the greatest advantage. When a man craves you but does not chase, do not mistake it for indifference. Many believe desire must be loud, obvious, relentless. They expect immediate pursuit, grand gestures, undeniable proof. But those who understand power know that revealing desire too soon is a dangerous mistake. The moment a man exposes the full extent of his hunger, he hands over control. He becomes predictable, his emotions laid bare for you to accept or reject at will. And in doing so, he shifts the dynamic. You become the prize, and he merely another seeker. But the man who withholds, who does not rush forward with desperate hands, is a different force altogether. He understands that desire, when left unsatisfied, grows, that curiosity, once sparked, is impossible to extinguish. By not moving toward you, he forces you to lean in, to wonder, to question. His silence, his restraint becomes a puzzle. Does he want me? Why doesn't he act? What is holding him back? And in that questioning, your thoughts become entangled with him. This is no accident. It is a deliberate move, a strategy of control. It creates tension, and tension is the essence of attraction. The moment he gives in too easily, the mystery vanishes, and with it, much of the intrigue. But if he lingers in the space between presence and absence, if he makes you feel his desire without ever declaring it outright, he ensures that you feel it more deeply. It is not the man who grabs what he wants immediately that wins. It is the one who makes what he wants reach for him, the one who withholds yet remains unforgettable, the one who understands that true power and desire is not in rushing forward, but in making the other person take the first step. Imagine walking into a darkened room where a single candle flickers in the distance. The shadows dance, the light teases, revealing just enough to keep you intrigued, but never enough to satisfy your curiosity. You take a step closer, drawn in by the mystery, eager to see more. This is how the mind works. When faced with the unknown, it seeks answers, it craves resolution, and when it does not find them, desire deepens. This is the secret of absence. It is not merely the lack of presence, it is the careful creation of space that forces the other person to fill it. A man who craves you but does not immediately declare his intentions understands something most do not. Certainty kills desire. The moment you know exactly where someone stands, the tension vanishes, and what once seemed exciting becomes predictable. But when someone lingers at the edge of your attention, when they do not fully commit to chasing you yet never completely disappear, they create an intoxicating effect. Think of the stories that consume us the most: books, films, myths. They all have one thing in common: they withhold. They reveal just enough to keep us engaged, but never so much that we lose interest. The best seducers understand this instinctively. They know that if they make themselves too available, they risk becoming ordinary, but by maintaining an element of unpredictability, by stepping forward just enough to be noticed and then pulling back before being fully grasped, they create a vacuum, and the human mind, unable to tolerate that vacuum, rushes to fill it with thoughts, speculation, longing. When a man desires you but keeps his distance, he forces you into a state of emotional uncertainty. You begin to analyze his every move, searching for signs, for hidden meanings in his silence. And without realizing it, you think of him more and more. He is not absent, he is everywhere, occupying the most valuable space of all, your mind. True seduction is not about overwhelming with presence, it is about mastering the art of absence. It is the whisper, not the shout. The half-glimpsed figure in the fog, not the man who stands in plain sight. Those who understand this do not chase, they let their silence do the work, and in doing so they become unforgettable. There is a moment in every pursuit where the balance of power shifts, a moment so subtle, so imperceptible, that most do not even realize it has happened. But once it does, the game is no longer the same. It is the moment when the one being chased becomes the one who chases. Imagine standing on the edge of a cliff, staring into the ocean below. The waves rise and fall, reaching for the shore, only to retreat before they can fully touch it. This is how power in attraction works. The more one advances, the more the other recedes. But when the tide suddenly pulls back too far, something unexpected happens. You find yourself stepping forward, drawn in by the absence, craving what was just within reach but is now slipping away. This is the moment of the shift. A man who craves you but refuses to chase is not always acting out of hesitation. He may know exactly what he is doing. He understands that to pursue is to reveal his hand, to expose himself to your judgment. The one who chases must seek approval, must win favor, must constantly offer more in order to keep the other interested. And the more he gives, the more control he surrenders. But the one who holds back, who remains just beyond reach, forces a different reaction. You begin to question, to wonder, to seek clarity. Your thoughts turn toward him, trying to decipher his silence, his distance. The more he does not act, the more you feel compelled to. Without realizing it, the roles reverse. You become the one reaching, the one wanting confirmation, the one seeking assurance. And here lies the truth most fail to see. The moment you chase, the power is no longer yours. What was once your choice becomes your pursuit. And a man who understands this shift can control the entire dynamic without ever making a move. The key is not in words or grand gestures. It is in patience. It is in knowing that human nature abhors uncertainty, that the mind cannot resist solving a mystery. Those who understand this do not beg for attention. They create space and let the other person step into it. The real question is not whether he desires you. It is whether he has made you desire him more. There is a kind of silence that draws you in, that makes you lean closer, desperate to hear what is not being said. And then there is another kind, the silence of hesitation, of fear, of a man too weak to act on what he wants. The challenge is knowing the difference. A man who craves you but remains frozen is not always playing a calculated game. Sometimes his silence is not a strategy but a symptom of insecurity, of doubt, of a mind riddled with uncertainty. He wants you, but he is paralyzed by the weight of his own inadequacies. Perhaps he fears rejection. Perhaps he has been wounded before. Perhaps he simply lacks the confidence to step forward. Whatever the reason, his desire, though real, is powerless. And what is powerless desire? It is a fire without heat, a weapon without force. It may exist, but it will not change anything. It will not move mountains, cross oceans, or even take a single step forward. It will sit there, waiting, hoping, while the world moves on without it. The mistake many make is confusing longing with action. They see his quiet, his hesitation, and assume it is proof of depth, of thoughtfulness, of hidden passion. But longing without action is just a dream, and a dream, no matter how intense, is useless if it never leaves the mind. You must ask yourself, do you want to be desired from a distance, in silence, by a man too weak to claim what he wants? Or do you want someone who has the strength to act, to risk, to pursue? Because the man who cannot move toward you now will not move when it matters. He will not fight for you. He will not protect what he desires. He will watch as someone stronger steps in and takes what he was too afraid to reach for. Silence can be powerful, but it can also be a sign of weakness, and weakness does not deserve your patience. The man who waits and hesitates is not a mystery to be solved. He is a weight to be carried. The choice is simple. Wait for him to find his courage, or walk away and find someone who already has it. Not all silences are the same. Some are deliberate, crafted with precision, meant to pull you in and make you question. Others are hesitant, uncertain, the silence of a man who does not know his own mind. The danger lies in mistaking one for the other. Imagine walking through a dense fog. Shapes appear in the distance, vague and shifting. You think you see something, a figure, a signal, but when you step closer it dissolves into nothing. This is what it feels like when dealing with a man whose silence is unclear. You are left guessing, interpreting, trying to make sense of the void he has created, and in that confusion you risk losing control of your own emotions. Discernment is everything. A man who remains silent because he is in control of himself, who understands the power of restraint, is vastly different from a man who is simply lost in his own fears. One is playing the game with intent, the other is not playing at all. The ability to tell the difference will determine whether you hold power in the situation or become trapped in it. A strategic man knows when to hold back and when to act. His silence is not hesitation, but a calculated move. If his presence lingers in your mind, if his absence makes him more intriguing rather than frustrating, then you are dealing with someone who understands how attraction works. He is drawing you in without lifting a finger, and if you are not careful, you will find yourself chasing. But if his silence leaves you feeling neglected, if it is inconsistent, if it creates more frustration than intrigue, then it is not strategy, it is weakness. A man who truly desires you yet does nothing is not worth your time. His silence is not a mystery, it is an answer. He is either too afraid or too indecisive to step forward, and such a man will only drain your energy. The key is in how his silence makes you feel. If it pulls you toward him, ignites curiosity, and creates tension, he may be in control. But if it leaves you anxious, second-guessing, and waiting for validation, you are dealing with someone who does not know his own power. Choose wisely, because the wrong kind of silence will steal your time, your confidence, and your peace.